Hi families and students, welcome to this next word study lesson. So for this first lesson, I want us to kind of review over two concepts that we've talked about in the classroom, and that would be synonyms and antonyms. Now, the reason why these are going to go hand in hand is because they're working on a similar skill, which is vocabulary, building up vocabulary. And students or families, if you find that your students may need more help with synonyms first, then you can just focus on synonyms, and then another time you can focus on antonyms. But again, these typically go hand in hand, so we can just go ahead and go with this lesson. So students have learned that synonyms are words that have the same or they have similar meanings. And in your packets that you're going to receive, you will find papers with just lines on it. And so the students have, they typically write it down like this when we're just talking about the word. So if you, maybe if you come up with a list of words and you have them, you ask, what's another word that is the same or is similar to the word big? They can say large, huge, humongous. Like I said, a lot of times the students have it inside of them already, but they don't realize that what they're doing is they're using synonyms. Then there's this next one, which is help. And in the classroom, I know in my classroom, I teach some sign language, and so students learn that this in sign language means help or assist. So that's also, some kind of grace and courtesy. So if you want students to be able to communicate to you that way, that will be something that you can do at your home. But yeah, so I just continue to write more. Again, like all these different word study activities, it can really help with students working on handwriting, their penmanship, their spacing words out and everything. And it just kind of helps them recall these different vocabulary words, which will be very helpful whenever they're reading and writing. So moving on to antonyms. So again, I'll put the timestamp for that. Antonyms are different. So antonyms, students have learned that they are words that have an opposite meaning. So they are the complete opposite. Sometimes whenever you use the word opposite, especially with younger students, they're probably still like, what does opposite mean? And to help them kind of get an understanding of what that means, they need something tangible. They need something concrete, something visual that makes, very practical and say, oh, this is what it means. So for example, I'm just going to use some of the objects that I have here. This is, this is not the same thing as what I'm about to show you, but it is a square. And if students were to describe it to you, again, tying in some of that grammar with the adjective, if we were to talk about size, this is small. And then this whiteboard is also kind of a square, but and same with this, it's curved, it has the curved edges, so it's not a straight edge. But students would see, when we compare these two, this is big and this is small. So again, providing examples in the house that they can see with their own hands, and not necessarily the words, but they can understand, oh, opposite means that it's not the same. And just continue to give them different examples. So another, just kind of similar to the synonyms, we write them down on a piece of paper. So after, before, hot, cold, up, down, slow, fast. And, that can kind of be tied in with like actions, your action words. So if you tell them to run slowly, and they will, just run and play slowly, and you tell them to run fast, or that's actually adverbs, they will be able to, again, understand, oh, so if I'm not running fast, I'm running slow. And that's another way to kind of what's the word? Try to pull it out and bring it to their to the forefront where they can understand, because again, these words students use all the time, and we use it in our oral language, just in, humanity, and throughout history of language. But now it is about identifying it and writing it, using it, and reading. So again, you can say, if I'm not after someone, or if I'm not standing after someone, I'm standing before someone, or something like that. These are just kind of examples that I'm trying to pull out. If the tea is not hot, then the tea is cold. So that's probably a better example. But yeah, just different ways that students can understand what opposite means. Now, to kind of tie this all in together, again, like I said, they work with the same kind of skill. Students can use a thesaurus, and I will again put some links in the description box of different kid-friendly websites that students can use, and there are different apps as well that students can use. Typically, you'll see with the dictionary websites that they also have a platform for thesaurus with that same company. So what I did is I wrote it down. Typically, I would, and I'm going to do it now, underline the word that we're focusing on. So I just underlined big, and I wrote, and according to the thesaurus, it just, the thesaurus doesn't really focus too much on a big wordy definition, because that's what the dictionary is for, but it still will have just a small explanation. And that's kind of a way that I've tried to tell students when it comes to working with the thesaurus. So they see that big is the same as large. And then other synonyms, so again, words that mean the same as big and large, would be colossal, gigantic, huge, ginormous. Again, just different words that they will be able to tell you. And they will be excited about it as they realize that, hey, I use synonyms all the time. And then you can also do a portion with the antonyms. So words that are opposite of big and large would be miniature or mini, small, little, tiny, as an example. For me, I love to take this time to teach younger students, especially how to space, again, in between words, maybe space between lines. That way handwriting is legible and it's clear to read, readable. And then they can practice writing numbering things on this side of the red line, and trying their best not to write over this red line. Again, which are things that they will learn when they get older, but it's always fun to teach them at this young age too. So that's something that they can do when it comes to the thesaurus. Now, if you want to, this is tying in another thing, which I'll put in the description box, but the dictionary, if students don't know the meaning of a word. So let's say that you give them a word and they're like, well, I don't really know a synonym or antonym for that because I don't know what it means. Perfect. Have them write in the dictionary. Okay, so this was my attempt at drawing a frog. What I tried to, and students really love doing the dictionary because they're able to write it down, again, understand the meaning, but they can also draw a picture with it. So what, again, I try to teach them is to number it right here, underline the word that they are writing the definition for, and also to write the parts of speech that it is. That way students can also, again, realize, hey, I'm using nouns or verbs or adjectives. I'm using these parts of speech all the time. And again, just to be able to recall it. Of course, I always tell them use a pencil first because I've tried my best to draw a frog and I'll probably go back and do some more. But again, they love being able to do it. So they'll draw an example, draw the word, and then they can go on to the next number. So, or the next thing that they want to do. This can come in hand if they are wanting to research a certain thing. So in this case, it would be animals. And even if they want, they can use this whole page to write different examples of amphibians. Just kind of, when it comes to these things, students get really creative, and it'll give them the opportunity to kind of show their peers, their teachers, their families, what's on their mind. And it's something that students really go to. They become engaged with it. They learn how to focus on their work, which is a really neat thing, because like I said, they can come up with some things that we'll use in the classroom. So it would be really neat to see what the students come up with, what families come up with. And again, if you want to share it with the rest of the school, rest of their classmates, you can feel free to send it to a teacher or to our school Facebook page. That way we can continue to build our community. Thank you so much for joining my lesson.